My last video touched on the prevalence of bias and ignorance consuming Twitter, as well as the distinction between good and bad Pokemon animation. This video will shed a light on the more nefarious nature of Twitter, while also breaking down discussions between people and to demonstrate how conflict can reach a breaking point. In doing so, I also get an opportunity to explain, in great detail, the function, purpose, and strategy behind Pokemon animation in the 3D turn-based style games. It starts off with a tale of deceit. I made a tweet that expresses my right to mute people. For those unfamiliar with Twitter, you can mute users, which means they can still see your posts and respond to them, but their posts will be hidden from you, giving you the option to toggle them on or off. You can also block users on Twitter, which completely blocks any and all interactions. I personally don't utilize this feature, however, as it seems a bit excessive. This tweet has been screen capped and taken out of context so many times in the attempt to drive a malicious, false narrative about me that I have lost a little faith in humanity. I first saw this tweet screen capped and taken out of context by Jayonaise the Bulbasaur. Jay, opposed to being muted by me, had this to say: "I know you muted me, but this is awareness. At DistantKingdom, you're egotistical, obstinate, and worst of all, you continue to be a tumor in the Pokemon community. Honestly, muting criticism has lowered any respect I had left for you." So, Jay is pushing the false narrative that I mute criticism, preceding that statement by equating me to a tumor, vindicating why he's muted in the first place. He then includes a screen cap of my tweet with no context, stating that I mute people, with no indication other than his word of what I mute or why, hence the false narrative. I responded to this deliberate and malicious character assassination attempt in kind. Clown emojis downplaying mine and others' opinions and vulgar hashtags is not criticism, it's borderline harassment. I value, respect, and invite actual criticism and/or discussion. I mute the intellectually blind to avoid running in futile circles. I don't mute criticism. I mute irrational, disrespectful, insufferable individuals who don't care or respect my own personal opinions. I never block anyone because I'm always open to constructive criticism and discussion. I'm not open to those who don't wish to discuss, or to those who wish to demean either myself or others. Another individual I have muted, named Taka, also weighed in on my tweet. He included an actual link to the thread of the tweet, which makes him more honest than his fellow colleagues, but he apparently didn't even take the time to read the thread. His false narrative was that I mute opposing opinions, ending off with #DistantKingdom. That's clever, I'll admit, but that just reinforces the justification and decision behind muting them in the first place. I don't mute people who have differing opinions. Some of the best discussions I've ever had, most of which took place outside of Twitter because Twitter is a cesspool of negativity that is further exacerbated by its character limit, was with people that had completely different opinions from my own. You could have a negative opinion about me as a person, that's fine, you don't have to like me. But if you feel it's appropriate to express your distaste of my being through reprehensible and downright embarrassing behavior, then I have the right to silence it at my discretion. One final individual that I will expose for attempting to paint a false narrative at my expense is Manga Common, whom I don't have muted. I watched his TWIP critique video and he seemed like a pretty reasonable guy, so I have no clue why he went out of his way to make a tweet about someone he doesn't know, especially considering that we've never spoken to one another, ever. He said, "You know, closing your ears off is just as bad as being blind. Oh, and this comes off as egotistical. I see the truth, guys." Yeah, sure, pal. Keep peddling that. We got some real classy stuff right here. "You can't teach the blind to see" is a metaphor not meant to be taken literally. It's not referring to the truth, it's referring to point of view and perspective. You can't teach the metaphorically blind to see your perspective, which I will demonstrate very shortly. There's nothing egotistical about this sentiment. I called out his deliberate mischaracterization. Wow, dude, you seriously need to actually look into things before spreading your nonsense. Had you even read the thread I posted that on, you would immediately understand what I'm talking about. Sad. He apologized, except not really, by admitting that he was wrong. He also admitted to consciously omitting the context of my words simply because it was too much effort for him to find, and it wouldn't have helped in building his false narrative anyways, so he didn't care to find it. He also tried to play the victim in this scenario, despite the fact that he attempted to slander me with his aspersion, stating that I wasn't talking to him like a person because I labeled his intentionally uninformed and malicious fiction of me as sad. Let's dive into the context surrounding my tweet and the real reason for why I said what I did. It starts off with Marty, aka Joe's girlfriend, with her tweet claiming the reuse of 3DS assets is just a figment of imagination, and therefore everyone should apologize to Game Freak. I asserted that people aren't assuming the assets are being reused because there is an overwhelming amount of video evidence that supports the reusal narrative. I also reaffirmed that the reuse of assets isn't an issue, just that some animations, like the textures of the models, need tweaks, ending with that sentiment seeming reasonable considering the fact that Pokemon are being removed from the game for that very reason. We will be focusing on a conversation between two individuals. The first is named James Card, whom I have muted. The second is Shy Guy Mask. Even though I couldn't see Card's messages, I could easily follow the conversation through Shy Guy's reactions. It eventually got to a point where Shy Guy was visibly frustrated and bewildered, a state I know all too well. That's when I stepped in to alleviate his suffering. Let's follow, together, the train of thought and logic behind these series of exchanges that led to this conclusion. After my comment on Marty's tweet, another guy I have muted, who completely missed the point of my tweet, proceeds to go off with the usual rhetoric. This is where Shy Guy enters, responding to him. Shy Guy ended off with saying, "The vast majority of battle animations in Sword and Shield don't hold a candle to an N64 Pokemon game, or even rival Digimon." This is true. Here, Shy Guy is referring to animation quality, as I touched on earlier. James Card finally joins in, stating, "The N64 Pokemon game reuses animations more than even the current games do. Flareon uses the same tail-shaking animation for its entry animation, idle, and special attack moves." He then includes Surf as an example, which makes no sense because Flareon can't learn Surf. Card has shifted the argument from animation quality to the application of animations. This is the case, by the way, for all 3D Pokemon games, which Shy Guy clarifies while returning back to the topic of the discussion, which is animation quality. 3D Pokemon having general animations to be reused for most moves is not new. This is true, and is exactly how Game Freak animates their 3D Pokemon. There are 3 attack categories in Pokemon: physical attacks, special attacks, and status attacks. Each Pokemon typically has 2 to 3 general attack animations that correspond to each of the 3 attack categories respectively. This is why Game Freak doesn't need to make thousands of unique animations for each attack for each Pokemon. Let's use Game Freak's Charizard as an example. Game Freak's Charizard only has 3 attack animations. These 3 animations are used for animating all 65 different attacks Charizard learns. The first animation is used primarily for special attacks, but it can also be used for status attacks. Charizard's second animation is used for any punching, swiping, or claw attacks. Charizard's third animation is used for everything else. As practical as this animation strategy is, it has some limitations, especially with regards to physical attacks. A punch looks completely different from a kick, for example. This can be detrimental to cohesion between a Pokemon's attack and their animation. Cohesion is important because greater cohesion translates to more convincing animation, which leads to enhanced expression, resulting in greater satisfaction when using an attack, which means that the game is more fun and enjoyable. Many special attacks can also achieve simple cohesion through the use of anchor points, which can be used to properly position and align certain Pokemon special attacks to the most appropriate point on the Pokemon model. You can think of it as an attachment point where the attack emanates from. Blastoise is a prime example to demonstrate this. Blastoise has 2 cannons on his back. The sole purpose of these cannons is to shoot water out of them. This can be achieved by anchoring 2 water beams to each of Blastoise's cannons respectively. This creates the illusion that water is coming from his cannons. Blastoise is an iconic Pokemon, thanks in part to his cannons. He is seen in all Pokemon mediums using his cannons to shoot water except in Game Freak games. Game Freak has a hard time positioning their special attacks in general to elicit cohesion, which can be seen in Max Flare for several Pokemon. The beam is anchored to a fixed location instead of originating from the Pokemon, which shatters the illusion of the Pokemon using the attack. Shy Guy addresses the solution to the limitation of Game Freak's animation system while still remaining on topic. The difference is that Stadium had more general animations and better general animations. Shy Guy included a video that supports what he is saying, which showcases unique kicking animations for some Pokemon in Pokemon Stadium. This helps in solidifying cohesion whenever a Pokemon uses a kicking attack. The greater number of animations means the greater level of expression. Expression is enhanced even further if the animations themselves are of high quality. Let's use Genius Sonority's Charizard from PBR as an example. Remember how Game Freak's Charizard only has 3 animations for 60 plus attacks? PBR Charizard has 7 unique attack animations for when Charizard uses a move. His first animation is used typically for special attacks and status attacks. His second animation is used for punching, swiping, or claw attacks. His third animation is used for kicking attacks. His fourth animation is used for charging style attacks. His fifth animation is becoming airborne by flying. His sixth animation is diving down from a flying position, and his seventh animation is a running animation used to approach opposing Pokemon. PBR Charizard has more than double the general attack animations compared to Game Freak's Charizard. This is just one of the many reasons why the Pokemon in PBR's battling system are more expressive than their Game Freak counterparts. Shy Guy ended with, "Let me know when you find anything on par in Sword and Shield." Card responds with a single animation. Shy Guy provided a 5-minute video to support his case. Card provided an 8-second clip of a single animation of a single Pokemon. This is what we refer to as cherry picking, which is a term many people love to misuse. The animation shown by Card is one of the better ones in terms of cohesion, convincingness, and satisfaction. Scorbunny is using one of about 3 general attack animations here. This would have been a great animation to use for Double Kick, instead of the non-animated version Game Freak went with. Shy Guy contends that Flame Charge specifically will not have comparable quality when used by other Pokemon. This is typically why larger sample sizes are more beneficial to both parties in a discussion. In Card's defense, there is literally only that one example of Flame Charge, other than Arcanine's gimped version due to the Dynamax phenomenon. Card responds is not a signature move, which means all other Pokemon will have comparable quality when using the move. This makes no sense because the move the Pokemon uses doesn't dictate the animation, regardless if it's a signature attack or not. All Pokemon use a set of general attack animations as highlighted earlier. I believe Card, at this point, still doesn't grasp this concept. Shy Guy wants a more clear explanation, stating Mega Kick also isn't a signature move. Card responds, "No, it isn't. However, I do not believe Game Freak has ever made a specific animation for a general move for a specific Pokemon." Right here, Card is proving Shy Guy's point, that Stadium has more attack animations to procure greater cohesion. He continues, "So yes, it can be informed that any Pokemon who learns this move does this similar animation." This statement made by Card confirms that he doesn't understand the core fundamental root of the argument. He believes that a Pokemon move dictates the Pokemon animation, when it's literally the inverse of that. This misunderstanding can be attributed to his lack of knowledge regarding the animation system in Pokemon. Shy Guy, recognizing Card's misunderstanding, once again reiterates that all Pokemon have predetermined general attack animations, highlighting the lack of quality regarding physical attack specifically. He then includes a video showcasing Toucannon's Flying type Z move. I'm not entirely sure why he chose this example, maybe to highlight the poor quality of physical attack animations, but this only further confuses Card, which means everything goes downhill from this point forward as the circle closes in on itself. Card, in his confusion, says, "I'm sorry, is that Sword and Shield?" Sword and Shield reuses all attack animations from the 3DS, including Sun and Moon, my guy. The initial argument has now been derailed and has been shifted from animation quality to animation reuse. Keep in mind that Shy Guy explicitly stated attack animations. This is integral to the impending disastrous conclusion. Card simply responds with, "Not all," which he supports with 0 evidence. His word alone is evidence enough. Card claims not all attack animations are reused. This statement is impossible to support because there is no evidence to support it. Shy Guy Mask challenges Card about his statement. I would genuinely like to see an example of an old Pokemon using an all-new general animation during battle regarding physical/special attacks. Do you have any? Shy Guy is very specific with his words here because he's seeking a very specific response, one that Card simply cannot provide. The first criteria that Shy Guy lays out for Card is that the animation must be new and not an improved version of an old animation. Second, the animation must be a general attack animation. This is the second time in a row that Shy Guy has specifically referred to general attack animations. This has also been the core of the entire discussion, which we've established that Card either doesn't understand or chooses not to understand. Card fails to meet the criteria established by Shy Guy. He links a video that showcases small changes to existing animations that are also not the aforementioned general attack animations, failing both criteria simultaneously. The other animations featured in the video are the new Dynamax intro animations, which satisfies the new animation criteria, but they clearly are not attack animations as specified throughout this entire thread. Shy Guy, for the 3rd time in a row now, has to repeat himself. I said an all-new general physical/special attack animation. Maybe reading my post will help. We have now reached the climax of this thread. Shy Guy has repeated himself 3 times in a row stating the exact same thing, while calling out Card's either intentional or misunderstood misdirection. Card is now backed into a corner with no way to defend his position. Any reasonable person would concede by forfeiting their argument and be on their way. There is one strategy remaining, however. It's used by the truly desperate that refuse to yield. Instead of attacking the argument, they turn their attention towards the person they're arguing with and attack them instead. This is a fallacious argumentative strategy reserved for those who can't defend their position in genuine discussion, called an ad hominem. Oh, I get it. You're just angry the game has gotten better animations, just not the animations you want. Card has now completely disregarded the entire discussion and is attacking Shy Guy due to his own inability to comprehend the reason behind the discussion in the first place. The circle is now complete. Card either can't see what Shy Guy is talking about or he refuses to see. Shy Guy, now visibly flustered and frustrated, responds, "What the hell are you talking about? We're talking about battle animations. Why are you trying to change the subject?" Card is trying to change the subject because he can no longer contribute to the one currently being discussed. I've fallen victim to this petty nonsense more times than I can count. A formal, civil discussion is supposed to be like a straight line, with a discernible beginning, middle, and end. In the beginning, both people with opposing opinions share their thoughts. By the middle, each person now knows what the other thinks and why. In the end, you can either agree or agree to disagree, but you usually walk away with learning something either about yourself or about something you didn't realize before. This isn't how discussions go at all, with what I refer to as the circles. The discussion I showed you with Card is a prime example of a circular discussion. It's like throwing your words into a void. They just get lost in translation. You can try and interpret what the void spits back at you, but most of the time it's contradictory or unintelligible. You end up chasing the circles until you trap them in a corner. That's when they resort to their ad homs, and the cycle repeats itself, endlessly. Neither party receives any benefits from the discussion, and everyone's time is wasted needlessly. Seeing Shy Guy go down this bottomless pit, I intervened. I told him he will just be wasting his time running in circles. Shy Guy took solace in my words, recognizing that maybe he should just not bother, and that's when I dropped my infamous tweet. It's not because of criticism, like some people want you to believe. It's not due to differing opinions, as others have purported. It's not because I'm egotistical and have some sort of god complex, according to a few. I simply wish to avoid circles and to not subject myself to the noise of those who inappropriately express their distaste towards my being unsolicited. I hope you guys were able to follow along. Even a seemingly mundane, fruitless conversation can disguise underlying complexities that are not immediately apparent. With all that being said, follow me on Twitter. Thanks so much for watching, you guys. No, but for real though. Link in the description. NANI?